Narumi Momose wakes up late on her first day of work at her new company. As she runs rushing to the train station, she wishes that none of her coworkers would find out about her secret about being an otaku and a fujoshi. Guided by her senior of the company, Hanako Koyanagi, they unexpectedly encounter Hirotaka Nefuji and Teru Kabakura. Recognizing him, she calls out Hirotaka's name. Desperate to keep her secret from her coworkers, as Hirotaka is also an otaku, she introduces herself as his childhood friend and invites him to dinner to end the conversation, which he accepts. However, as she prepares to leave, Hirotaka casually asks if she'll attend the summer Comiket. During their dinner, Narumi tries threatening Hirotaka by revealing he's a game otaku, but he's unfazed as he's not hiding it. Later on, the topic shifts to Narumi's recent boyfriend, who breaks up with her after learning she's an otaku, leading her to transfer company. Hirotaka suggests dating someone who accepts her, but she declares she will never date a gross nerd. While admitting that he's indeed a gross gamer himself, she raises his eyeglasses and claims he's not her type. She also expresses interest in meeting Teru, but Hirotaka reveals he's already taken. While watching Narumi work, Teru repeatedly mentions childhood friends with Hirotaka and admits that he's jealous as all guys want one. Ignoring Teru, Hirotaka plays on his phone. Teru scolds him for playing at work, which leads Hirotaka to point out its lunch break. Meanwhile, Narumi wants to get close to Hanako as she looks cool, and she seems familiar with Summer Comiket when it is mentioned. When she finally decides to approach her, she spots a famous cosplayer on her phone and blurts out their name. She discovers that the cosplayer Hana is also Hanako. Hanako then reveals that she's a fan of Narumi and once bought her book. After that, they decide to talk casually. 2 weeks later, during his cigarette break, Hirotaka gets a message from Narumi asking to meet for a drink to discuss something. He agrees to meet at 6 p.m. after work, but when the agreed time comes, Narumi is still working. Hirotaka questions her focus and decides to play on his phone while waiting. When Narumi finishes her work, he asks for more time to continue playing. Eventually, Narumi insists they wrap it up within 5 minutes, to which Hirotaka complies. As they settle down for their drink, the bartender mistakenly refers to them as a couple when taking their order. Narumi stifles her laughter as Hirotaka orders, finding it absurd to imagine him as her boyfriend and laments how she always chooses the wrong guys. Hirotaka notes that she's always choosing the right path in dating Sims. He asks if that's all she has to say and decides to go home, but Narumi requests for his help on getting an item. They stayed up till late night gaming. On their way home, Hirotaka suggests to be her boyfriend and proposes that he will help her farm whenever she wants and would wait for her after work. Upon mentioning that he would even help her for Comiket, she easily agreed to the deal, marking the start of their relationship. Morning, Hirotaka plays his game as usual before going to work. Hanako and Teru discover from both of them that they are now dating. Hirotaka notices Narumi avoiding him lately, and during a conversation with Teru about the issue, they spot Narumi hiding from them. Hanako asks if they fought and suggests acting normal as it might make her boyfriend sad. However, when she checks on Hirotaka, he's just sitting glaring in her direction, so she dismisses the thought. Teru also asks Hirotaka if they fought, but he's clueless, claiming he is not an expert in dating games. Teru assumes that it must be too much for Narumi to handle him as he's a game addict. Thus, he orders him to fix it on the pretense that it might affect the work. Once again, Hirotaka relates it to the game and thinks of it as raising the affection level. Meanwhile, Hanako is jealous of Hirotaka's perfection as a boyfriend, noting his cosplay-worthy posture and attractiveness. She wonders why she's not satisfied, which she denies and shares that her type is more like Teru. Overheard by Hirotaka and Teru, Narumi plans to escape from the seemingly mad Hirotaka, but he closes the door. To her rescue, Hanako suggests talking it out later, but Teru counters her, and they start their own banter. The two have their own history since their high school days. Narumi tries to escape to the elevator, but Hirotaka corners her. He apologizes for scaring her and expresses regret for confessing his feelings. Then they both realize that he never did. Narumi suddenly hugs him, promising not to run away again. Hirotaka, overwhelmed, hides his face and says "Donghae," indicating a relationship upgrade. They catch Teru and Hanako arguing in the hallway, prompting Hirotaka to tell Narumi that they are dating. On their way to the arcade, he admits he's not mad but thinks that she doesn't like him anymore. The next day, Teru invites them to drink together, but Narumi needs to finish her work first. She plans to meet them later after stopping by the bookstore, and Hanako offers to accompany her. They all end up going together to the otaku bookstore. On the way, Hirotaka shares his inability to wink but can do it with both eyes simultaneously. Narumi tries to teach him, but he ends up making a funny face instead. Splitting up to shop for their own books, Teru complains that he should have gone to the bar first. Hirotaka asks him if he doesn't like it there, to which he replies yes with an annoyed face. He explains that he doesn't like to be seen as a hardcore otaku who goes shopping for nerdy books right after work. Hirotaka is surprised after discovering that Teru and Hanako don't usually go together to the bookstore as they have different genre tastes. On the other hand, Narumi and Hanako are enjoying their time picking. Narumi expresses that she finally finds her soulmate who can connect with her interests. But when Hanako offers her a cosplay magazine, she's threatened by her own words of being a soulmate. Later, they all cancel their plan to drink and bid goodbye to Hirotaka as they are all excited to read their newly bought books. Hirotaka helps Narumi with her rough draft as the deadline nears, applying screen tones together to finish in time for the convention. On the day of the event, he notices Narumi's nerves but finds her battlefield aura mismatched with her cute attire. As Narumi entertains her customers, Hirotaka grows irritated on the sidelines and takes a tobacco break. Then Teru contacts him, inquiring about his whereabouts. Narumi captures the handsome cosplay of Hana. Hirotaka tells Teru to intervene, but he chooses to ignore it as he's also jealous that his girlfriend's popular with girls. Narumi, realizing she hasn't visited her favorite author's stall, reluctantly accepts Hirotaka's offer to man her stall. As she leaves, she overhears girls whispering about a man with glasses selling yaoi books. To save his dignity, she rushes back to Hirotaka with his requested tea after achieving her goal. She asks if he's fine and learns that he got sexually harassed, but he's oblivious about it. On their way back, Hirotaka almost invites her somewhere, but she already has plans for the next convention. After her busy days, Hirotaka invites Narumi, to which she eagerly agrees, willing to go anywhere with him. Then she learns they'll be at his place, making her think of the color of her undergarments. For the first time, Narumi finishes her work first. On the bus, she recalls their childhood days but couldn't remember how they became friends. Entering his house, Narumi remains nervous. Drinking the beer he offers, and whilst in her thoughts, he leans towards her and she remembers that he's a man. She also recalls that her undergarments are beige, so she blurts out that she wants to do it with pink instead. Turns out she's mistaken and he's just taking the game controllers beside her. While playing games, Hanako and Teru arrive, catching Narumi off guard. Hirotaka mentions it's his first time playing with so many people, gaining pity from Narumi despite internally calling him an idiot. Teru finishes his bath and it's Hirotaka's turn. Hanako asks to search Hirotaka's room for stashes, finding nothing. While figuring out where he hides it, Narumi shares Hirotaka's personality and how he rarely smiles, shocking the other couple. Hanako believes that he just hid it well, and she begins arguing again with Teru. Meanwhile, Narumi notices the busts of the figurines. Narumi finds a box where his old game cards are stocked. While reminiscing over old game cards, Hirotaka surprises Narumi by appearing behind her after his shower. They discuss the character she's holding as it starts their friendship. Sensing her guilt for not remembering, Hirotaka playfully rubs his head towel on her head, assuring her she doesn't need to feel bad. Narumi suggests being open and offers to be punched if he's mad, to which he surprisingly agrees, so she asks him to lower his strength. As he prepares to punch her, she closes her eyes in fear, only to open them to find Hirotaka kissing her. Startled, she headbutts him but denies being mad, just surprised as she didn't expect it. Hirotaka tells her that he's a guy after all, shifting to him about loving large busts. Then he notices all of his figurines are facing the wall. When they go to the living room, they find Hanako sleeping on Teru's shoulder, signaling them to remain silent. Back from the convenience store, Hirotaka finds Narumi crying over Sailor Moon and joins her, getting emotional himself. Narumi boasts about her cosplay picture, and Teru jokingly asks to be introduced to the girl behind it, only to discover it's Hirotaka. Hanako shares a picture, piquing Teru's curiosity. When he grabs it, he sees himself kissing Hanako on the cheeks, becoming embarrassed. The next day, Teru and Hanako approach them to serve as a judge for their argument. Apparently, Hanako suggests Teru cosplay, which he disagrees with, wanting to remain a moderate otaku. Narumi imagines them cosplaying BL, with Hanako in her usual handsome cosplay. When asked, Hirotaka, having already cosplayed, doesn't mind. They notice Hirotaka and Narumi never fight. While Narumi shares that they accept each other despite different interests, Hirotaka comments that it's too late to save Narumi, angering her. Despite attempts to calm her down, Hirotaka insists he meant it. 3 days later, Teru arrives home to find a photography setup, complaining to Hanako, who reminds him of their deal. After taking many photos, Hanako proudly shows Teru's cosplay photo to Narumi, who thinks he looks like a game character. Hanako explains her efforts in preparing his cosplay. Hirotaka asks Teru about the bribe. Sulky, he replies it's Yudeki Kai, the second with the best quality. On their way back from a meeting, Hirotaka messages Narumi inviting her to drink after work using emojis. Hanako suspects his phone is bugged, but Narumi denies it, concluding Hirotaka might have bugged himself. They finally drink together, and Narumi suggests discussing things they can't talk about while sober. Hanako, already drunk, suggests talking about love. She urges Narumi and Hirataka to show PDA, but Narumi deflects, citing their constant fights. When Toru mentions it's okay for them since they've been dating long, Hanako argues it's not. Lightening the mood, Narumi asks when they started going out, and they reminisce about their high school days. When asked who confessed first, they point at each other, leading to another fight. Hirataka offers water to calm Hanako down, but she accidentally spills it on her chest. Hirataka lends his handkerchief, but she suggests he wipe it off himself, infuriating their partners. Trying to stop Hanako from drinking leads to another fight when she insists he calls her by her name. Hanako grabs Narumi, admitting she knows he prefers girls like her. Narumi suggests they confess what they like about each other to resolve the situation. Toru, looking away, answers he likes her busts, infuriating her. She gets on top of him and expresses her awareness that she'll never be like Renka, his favorite character, then throws a shoe at him while running away. Narumi consoles a crying Hanako, who wonders if Toru is dating her because it's convenient. Narumi also ponders her relationship with Hirataka. Toru overhears and takes Narumi's place while Hirataka stops Narumi from eavesdropping. Toru tells Hanako to apologize later and agrees he could find another girl, irritating her, and she slaps him. He catches her arms, grinning, and wipes her tears, hugging her to console. As they bid farewell, Hirataka senses Narumi's distraction and asks her about it. She thinks he might be better off dating someone normal, but he reassures her that he loves seeing her enjoying herself. Narumi teases him that he really likes her, and they laugh together. Playing his games, Narumi touches Hirataka's ears and learns he pierced it during summer in high school as he wants to look cool and be a grown-up. She then asks if he became the adult he wants, and he replies he wants to be a kid forever with his toys. At their work, while enthusiastically discussing what she watched, Hirataka falls asleep. Upon overhearing a new frap in the cafe, she decides to order for herself. She then discovers that the new barista is her acquaintance, and they decide to catch up with each other. Meanwhile, Toru and Hanako witness it and assume that he's her ex, judging from their closeness. Hanako stops Toru from intervening and tells him not to be nosy. She also questions why he seems so angry, and he expresses that if it's him, he doesn't want to see the same situation. Discussing what they would do, Toru doesn't realize that Hirataka sits beside him as Hanako contacts him. To their surprise, he just walks straight to them. They later on discover that the blonde barista is Hirataka's brother, Naoya Nafuji. Naoya requests to stay by Hirataka's place, but he's unable to respond as he's sleepy. Then Narumi also suggests staying over, and he gives them a thumbs up. That night, they decided to play together. They find out that Naoya is not an otaku, so Narumi worries about what to talk about with him later. Upon announcing that he'll be teamed with his brother, Naoya thinks he'll just be a burden for him, and he doesn't bother hiding his displeasure. Narumi reasons that he's just tired and that he'll take care of his brother, which he denies. Starting their game, they compliment Naoya for choosing a character befitting a beginner. However, when they play, he starts panicking and messes up here and there. At times, he fell off on his own. Finally, he got an item and considers himself invincible. When he's about to help, he once again falls off and dies. Next, he successfully dodges an attack, but then he forgets the button for punch and blows himself. They learn that he really sucks at games. Teamed with his brother, Hirataka wins the game by himself, then he falls asleep while still holding the controller. As he won't wake up, Naoya volunteers to take care of him and suggests walking Narumi to the station. Toru steps up and claims that he'll walk the two girls despite being in opposite directions. He straightforwardly tells Naoya that Narumi has a boyfriend. Naoya apologizes, mistaking Narumi and Toru as a couple, but Hanako butts in and pulls his necktie to kiss him, declaring that they are the ones who are in a relationship. She also clarifies that Hirataka is Narumi's boyfriend. Learning this, he bursts into tears, and Toru assumes that Naoya really has feelings for Narumi. However, to their surprise, he's been worried that his brother will be alone and has been longing for Narumi to stay with him. He expresses his gratitude to her. She promises to play again together. On the other hand, Toru becomes emotional like a father. The next day at their work, Toru advises Hirataka to be nice to his brother and to teach him some games. It is raining, and Hirataka and Narumi forgot their umbrellas. Luckily, Toru offers him and runs under the rain instead. While walking, Narumi notices how Hirataka casually changes their position to shield her. Meanwhile, Toru shares an umbrella with Hanako, claiming he forgot his. Worried, she wipes him off while telling him that he should have called her. The next day, it's still raining, and Hirataka notices Narumi's sadness. He asks Hanako and Toru if they know what's wrong, but they're clueless. They advise him to ask Narumi directly, but she denies anything being wrong. Hanako suggests waiting for Narumi to open up, but knowing he wants to help, she quotes that the best way to cheer up is by doing something she likes. Later, Narumi spots Hirataka waiting for her and invites her to drink with Hanako and Toru. She insists that she's fine and it doesn't concern him. He repeats what she said, scaring her to admit that she's indeed unwell as he tells her to wipe her fake smile. He questions if he's not reliable enough for her to share her problems. Narumi smiles and whispers her reason to him. Drinking, Hanako is relieved it's nothing big, but Hirataka keeps laughing as her reason is her favorite manga character's sudden death. Meanwhile, Taru, overwhelmed as a comic fan, reacts strongly. It's almost Christmas, as workers are packed with work. Going down with Hanako, Narumi mentions a Christmas limited event and items in her game. Then they agree that it is costly every holiday. Hanako asks her if she's not going to celebrate it with Hirataka as it's their first Christmas together, but she's unsure as he's not fond of crowds. Then Hanako shares her last Christmas and describes it as the worst as she fought with Taru for being too busy with work. Walking with Hirataka, Narumi learns that he discovers Santa is fake when he is still in kindergarten. Instead, he plays his own game of guessing the gift by its shape and weight. But when he got a brother, Naoya, he played along with the story of Santa Claus. Soon they saw Naoya standing outside a store wearing a Santa Claus costume. Narumi also asks him when he stops believing in Santa and he reveals it was in his 6th grade. Then they recall eating Christmas cake together and Hirataka pinching his brother's cheek after wiping off the icing. Hirataka thinks it must be because he used to like to stretch Super Mario's face. She then notices that Noe is cold, which he admits as his costume is thin. She thinks of how hard his job is, exaggerating it a bit. But he thinks that it is happy to see people smile and kinda jealous as he's single. She thinks it is unbelievable, but Hirataka, like a game character, rates him as someone who's friends with the main character. On Christmas Eve, Taru is as busy as always, so Hanako decides to leave early by herself. However, he rushes to run after her and they dine in a luxurious restaurant. Blushing, he admits that he reserved it half a year ago to make up for last year's mistake. Then she gives him her Christmas gift. Opening it, he can't believe it is a limited edition item. Taru meets Narumi in an online game. Apparently, her character is a cute elf, but her class is an assassin. He learns that she's much more into it than him. Narumi asks Hanako's whereabouts. She then appears later with a hot character. Taru notices that she's wearing a paid costume, but she insists that it's free. While waiting for Hirataka, they encounter a rare monster. Narumi, despite her class, heads straight to it. Taru then orders his girlfriend to cast a spell, but they end up arguing. Appearing from the top of a cliff, Hirataka's character shot a clumsy arrow to the monster. Then they soon learn that it is Naoya who's operating it. As Hirataka's character has the highest level, they want him to attack, but Naoya fails on his part and gets attacked by the dragon's breath instead. Narumi, panicking, eats the herb herself instead of giving it to the injured Hirataka. However, the real Hirataka finally logs in and kills the enemy in one shot. After collecting the drop items, he declares that multiplayer is the best, contradicting what he just did by soloing the monster. With Taru drinking with Hirataka and his other juniors, Hanako invites Narumi to have dinner with her. While drinking, they think Hirataka is amazing when he tells Taru that he has a scary face, and then their topic shifts to Momoshi, when Hirataka notes that he's actually cute according to someone. But their other co-workers think that he's joking. Meanwhile, Narumi and Hanako are having fun discussing the anime Narumi recommended. When Hanako reveals her ship, obvious disappointment is on Narumi's face as she likes the opposite. They conclude that they'll just have fun laughing together in the next life. The guys keep on complimenting Momoshi's cuteness and how they heard that she spent her Christmas with her boyfriend. Taru looks at Hirataka's expression only to see him obviously touched, and then one of them turns the topic about Hanako as she's sexy compared to Momoshi. Wondering why they always got different shipping, Hanako suggests to Narumi to talk about it with Hirataka, but she thinks that he would listen but won't be as passionate as her. On the other hand, Taru strongly disagrees with it, so Hanako intentionally reads our 18 Bull where he could see. Without their boyfriends, the two decide to ship the two, but it turns out they still got it the opposite as they fight who's who based on position. While his junior talks about Hanako, Taru thinks internally about how she's different from her outside demeanor. Then his face got serious when they talked about her chest. The girls then are arguing that their boyfriends should be the top. As Taru can't take their topic anymore, he slams his glass to the table, scaring them. Smiling, he advises them to go after girls who are single. That day, they conclude that he really does have a scary face. While Narumi and Hanako are still arguing, justifying their points, bidding their goodbyes after drinking, they spot Narumi and Hanako together. They suggest a second round with the girls around, but Hanako declines as she has something to do. Seeing them hanging out together, Hirataka thinks that they really got along despite having large differences. Narumi feels angst with the gloomy weather. She asks Hirataka if he feels excited about the typhoon as it is scary but exciting, and he denies it. Then it thunders. Hirataka drops his can and wants to go back to his desk. He then wears a headphone and Narumi advises him to remove it to avoid being scolded. Hirataka confesses he's scared of thunder as it reminds him of a traumatic experience of not saving his game progress. While working, he drops his pen and bumps his head into the desk when it suddenly thunders. Toru suggests going to his sanity point check. Seeing him leaving, Narumi worries, but Hanako assures her that he'll be fine as he still looks calm as always. However, it still bothers her. Reminiscing about his childhood days, Hirataka hears Narumi on the other side of the glass. They chat on their phone. She confesses that she's also scared, and it doesn't make her feel better with glasses between them, reminding him of how scared she is when Narumi visits him alone on a rainy day but gets fine after being with him. They come back to their work and Hirataka finishes on time, with Narumi working overtime as always. Teenage Hirataka tries piercing his ears. He thinks it would be painful but ends up regretting his decision, thinking of becoming cooler after seeing Narumi with her boyfriend. Back to the present, drinking, Hirataka shows his wink as he boasts about practicing it, but there's no progress at all. With Hanako drunk, Toru urges him to stop her from always flirting with Narumi and makes him imagine if she's a guy. Then Hanako teases that it will be Yoa between her and Toru, irritating him, so they fight again. Narumi thinks that Toru is just jealous. Then Hirataka asks her if she will feel jealous if he also tries flirting when drunk, but she dismisses it, claiming she can't even imagine. The next day, Hirataka reflects on his relationship with Narumi as he sees Toru and Hanako fighting as always and then making up. He asks Toru about how they are when they are alone, and he replies they're just like Narumi and him. However, after further observation, Hirataka claims that they are different, confusing Toru. On the other hand, as she observes Naoya wearing glasses, she thinks he's really different from Hirataka. As his eyes are not as bad as Hirataka's, he's always wearing contacts. He just skips for the day since his eyes are swollen from crying. After seeing her scary aura, he clears up that it's just a movie that he saw, and she teases him if it's a date, but it's with a guy friend. Then he asks if they went on a date recently. Remembering their dates, it's all either on places for Otaku or Hirataka's place. Realizing it, she asks Naoya what is a date. Walking back home, Narumi can imagine Hirataka deciding their date to be a home date as he prefers gaming to going out. Hirataka then asks her about his previous dates with her exes. She informs him that they often go to theme parks and movie theaters, and he asks her for Sunday, to which she immediately agrees. Confused about what they're talking about, he says it's a date, shocking Narumi. As promised, Hirataka and Narumi go on a date to a normal theme park, where Narumi looks less otaku in her regular clothes. After spotting the shop, Narumi rushes off to buy churros, secretly intending to taste both. Hirataka imposes the limit for discussing nerdy topics with donations to a piggy bank as a penalty. Narumi bites into his churros, warning him he'll go broke. While queuing, Narumi talks about the two guys nearby and gets fined by Hirataka. Then a notification pops up on his phone about Pokemon Go, and he pays for it too. Struggling to find a topic, Hirataka considers discussing Narumi's favorite anime character but dismisses it. Narumi shifts to asking about his thoughts on the rides, to which Hirataka responds they might make him cry. Narumi drags Hirataka around the park, eventually entering the haunted house ride. She assures him he'll be fine, though she's the nervous one. Anxious about the haunted house ride, she accidentally drags someone with her instead of Hirataka. After embarrassingly offering to hold his hand, she just finds out that she ends up being with Toru, and Hirataka ends up riding with Hanako. Hanako and Hirataka are unfazed by the scary props. Hirataka questions why they are also there, and she admits they followed them, with the ulterior motive of seeing Toru scared, which he believes. Meanwhile, Toru and Narumi are both scared. It surprises Narumi that her senior at work is afraid despite his tough exterior. Hanako asks Hirataka how their date is, and he replies that it's the same as usual. Hanako tells Hirataka that it's okay for his relationship with her to proceed slowly, following their own pace. Narumi, on the other hand, crosses her arms, saying it is a lucky charm, but she just does it to avoid holding his hands. Exiting the haunted ride, Toru scolds Narumi for not checking and reminds her to ride with someone she can hold hands with next time. Narumi then apologizes to them for the mix-up, while Hirataka thanks Hanako for her advice. Curious, Toru asks what they talk about, and she assures him that he's still the cutest. Discussing what happened during the rides, Hirataka tries to hold Narumi's hand but fails as she suggests resting. Hirataka comes to the realization that while Narumi grows up and experiences a lot, he always shuts himself away just to play games. Mimicking Toru, she scolds him for not telling him earlier that his feet are hurting. After a long silence, he inquires if he enjoys being with him, to which she replies that they should end it, blowing him. Then she adds that it's about the off-limits, and he feels relieved. Narumi finally convinces Hirataka to remove it, and now she's back to having fun. Narumi gives Hirataka a pair of earrings, wanting to see his rebellious side who wants to grow up, which touches him. Then he tucks her hair behind her ears, making her blush. He notices that she also has one, and it's a couple of earrings, albeit clip-ons, and laughs. He pulls her close for a hug, promising to treasure it, as he realizes that they are indeed growing slowly from the past. Unfortunately, when he's putting the earrings on, he realizes that the piercing is already closed. Noe's co-workers imagine that he'll be cool in a suit after learning that Hirotaka is his brother. Seeing a customer playing the game where he substitutes for Hirotaka and gets knocked out in one attack, he watches from the back. But seeing him, the customer rushes away, leaving a paper behind. With his friends, Naoya spots the customer again and learns that she's Ko Sakuragi. Talking about Ko reminds Naoya of his brother. He sits in front of her and waits to finish her game. Noticing him, Ko apologizes and is about to run away, but he stops her, saying he just wants to return something. Again, she apologizes after their introductions. Noe stops her again and declares he wants to play with her and be her friend. Ko thinks that he wants to send a friend request on the game instead, so she gives him her ID. Since Noe doesn't want to burden Ko during their games, Narumi, Hanako, and Taru decide to help him level up and complete a hard quest. Narumi fails to encourage Hirotaka to help as he thinks it's useless if he doesn't develop his gaming skills. Struggling to fight the monsters, they end up calling for Hirotaka's help, but a powerful player already helped them when he arrived. Meanwhile, Naoya is aware that it is Ko who helps and thanks her. Ko advises them to level up first before challenging that quest again. Rushing to her work, Narumi is shocked to see Hirotaka without glasses, and she mentions they're late. Since he steps on his glasses, Hirotaka has been almost kissing his computer screen because he can't see well. Narumi worries if he's alright. One of their co-workers asks Hirotaka to give a file to Taru. However, unable to recognize him, Hirotaka pulls his face close to identify, creating a BL setting for the two girls. Taru, in return, headbutts him. Seeing him without his glasses, the girls talk about how hot Hirotaka is, irritating Narumi. When asked if she never saw him handsome, she assumes that she must be just used to his face. Then one of their girl co-workers asks for Hirotaka's help, so he closes in to see it clearly. Seeing this, Narumi's about to call for him, but Taru interrupts and orders her to accompany Hirotaka in buying his glasses as it hinders his work. Naoya, seeing Ko, thanks her again for helping the other day, and they discuss the game. Ko assures him that she doesn't mind helping him on leveling up. On the other hand, Narumi doubts that Hirotaka can't see that well without getting closer, since he's able to recognize her right away. However, he clarifies that it is because he already knows it is without seeing her. Caught off guard, she suggests he should use contacts, but he sticks with his glasses again. That Sunday, Naoya borrows Hirotaka's computer to play with Ko. He tries clearing up missions like she suggests, but ends up failing repeatedly. Then Ko suggests another approach, like changing into Knuckles. Notifying Naoya that he gets a call, Hirotaka wonders why he suddenly starts gaming. He plays for a while, shocking Ko. Naoya came back and explained it to her. She decides to play with him and promises that she won't get mad like his brother. On holiday, Hanako reminisces about her past with Taru while overhearing high school kids discussing after-school sports. She invites Taru to see cherry blossoms next year, but he agrees only if everyone goes. Hanako sighs, wondering what the others been up to. Meanwhile, Narumi plans to visit Hirotaka but finds him passed out on the floor with the game still running, realizing he's been gaming non-stop until he collapsed. Narumi shares the situation with Hanako, who laughs at the ridiculousness of it. Narumi decides to cook for Hirotaka, asking for Hanako's suggestion. Hanako notes Narumi is finally acting like his girlfriend by cooking. Narumi just realizes it herself. When Hirotaka comes out of the bathroom, Narumi offers him fried rice, but he's confused about why she's there. Seeing him naked, she scolds him for not wearing underwear, and all of this is heard by Hanako and Taru on the other line. Ko, wondering why Naoya hasn't logged in lately, then someone mistakes him for a guy. Looking at herself, she confirms that she really doesn't look like a girl and goes to Noe's workplace, but he's not there. Hanako finishes reading her newly bought yaoi books quickly, surprising Taru. He asks why girls are interested in the genre, to which Hanako counters with a question about Yuri. Taru assures he's not criticizing yaoi, but is curious about it. Hanako tries persuading him to read yaoi, leading to another argument. After explaining how Hirotaka reads Narumi's recommendations, he finally gives in to reading something lighter. While eating Narumi's fried rice, he notes that it is delicious. Narumi discovers Naoya does the cooking, buying groceries and girlfriend tasks, so she blurts out that she wants to go on a date with Hirotaka. Ko is surprised to see Naoya seated across from her and asks why he's been offline lately. Naoya explains he didn't want to bother his brother and has been busy with multiple part-time jobs. Ko admits she thought he might quit gaming, but he reassures her he wants to continue. She gives him a note with game strategies before he excuses himself to change. Meanwhile, Taru finishes the yaoi that Hanako suggested and finds it good. While on a date walk through the park, Narumi is reminded of many things, including how Hirotaka declines outings with his family to play games during vacations. Narumi empathizes as she enjoys staying home to read manga and watch anime. They realize that they've been doing it for a long time. Hirotaka affirms that what he likes never changes. Suddenly, Narumi wants to go home early to watch her favorite voice actor and runs off, but comes back to cheer Hirotaka on. Then he sets a condition that she should cook for him, motivating Hirotaka. After agreeing, he dashes past her and runs for it. At Starbucks, Narumi asks about love, but Hirotaka and Toru refuse. When she asks about their first to-be love, they immediately answer, realizing their changed preferences. Noea joins them, sharing that his first love was his kindergarten teacher. They console him about first loves not always working out. As they're leaving, Noea mentions he's glad his brother gets to date his first love. Hirotaka glares at him, and Toru witnesses it. Narumi assumes it is Nakoruru, his first dude crush. Then Ko enters the shop thinking she misheard Nakoruru.